We're back. Another episode where we get to make an ancient dessert. I don't think I ever get tired of making more treats. All right, I am so excited and also a little bit nervous about today's episode of Ancient Recipes. We're going to be making the most intricate, the most elaborate thing we've ever made. Hey there, I'm Sohla El-Waylly, and this is Ancient Recipes with Sohla. In each episode, we take a dish you may recognize and attempt to recreate one of the oldest versions of it to ever exist. It's a little cooking, a little history, and a whole lot of me. What's not to love? This is going to be a French show-stopping sugar confectionery centerpiece from arguably the first modern celebrity chef. And on top of that, it's something that Napoleon himself may have had. Antonin Carême kind of founded French haute cuisine and brought so much architectural thinking to the look of desserts. Carême was basically born into poverty at the height of the French Revolution. He eventually ended up working at a pastry shop that served the wealthy. While there, he learned to read and write and became obsessed with architecture. This turned into him creating show-stopping confectionery centerpieces that would make him famous among the French upper class. He made confectionery sculptures of everything: ancient Athens ruins, Indian pavilions, Chinese fortresses, musical instruments, historic soldier helmets, trophies of war, pretty much anything. Carême went on to be hired by Prince George before he became King George IV, Russian Tsar Alexander I, and even made Napoleon's wedding cake. We're making a showstopper from Carême's final compilation cookbook, French Cookery. Not gonna lie, I'm nervous, but we're gonna do this. So to start, we've got some hazelnuts that we've ground into a flour, and we're gonna cook this in a pot with some sugar. It's crazy how much it's transformed. First of all, it smells so good, so nutty, so caramelly. Everything is nice and toasty. We're getting a little bit of clumps from the sugar, and I did sneak a taste. It tastes really good at this point. I mean, it's just toasted hazelnuts and caramelized sugar. And now I'm gonna pound this into a paste while adding some lemon juice and gum tragacanth. This is not something I've used before, but it's something mentioned a lot in a lot of confectionery work. In Carême's instructions, he says that you mash it until it's a paste, and if it gets a little oily, you add some water, and you want to keep adding gum until it's nice and sticky. So he did give you starting measurements, but it's one of those things that you're supposed to adjust to eye. So I'm smashing, and we're getting like nut butter marzipan vibes. It smells super good because it's all toasty. And I think it's time to mold this. I'm very scared about how this is gonna come out of the pan. He never really told us what the plan was there. He just said to butter the mold and go for it. So we got some softened butter, get it all over. And I'm gonna thoroughly dust it with powdered sugar. I wanna do as much as possible to take care that it is going to pop out, hopefully. I don't know what else to do besides hope that it dries, hope that it comes out. I have no idea how this is gonna work. I'm just pressing it in here. My favorite thing to do with hazelnuts is put it in a lot of savory food. It goes really well with like roasted meats or salads. I don't know, it's a great nut. You can do so much with hazelnuts. I'm gonna keep filling up my mold, and to give more insight to how important Carême is to French culinary history, and some insight into how well known he was at the time, I got to chat with good friend of the show and culinary historian, Ken Albala. Hi, Ken. Thanks for coming back. Always fun to talk to you.
Yep.
So we're going to be making one of Antonin Carême's desserts. He's known for like very overly elaborate structures, but are there any things that he made back then that we're actually still making today?
There are plenty of things. Any type of pastry that uses like millefeuille or pistachio, the things that are indigenously French that have multiple layers of pastry that not croissants. Croissants supposedly come from Vienna, which is why they call viennoiserie. But there's a lot of things that he used, including sauces. He's got a list of sauces that predates Escoffier, but it's pretty comprehensive. often people will say Carême is the first celebrity chef, and
Mhm.
there's plenty of celebrity
Uh,
chefs. He was just before and after. He just happened to really market himself well. He was very dashing and good looking, and wore a toque. He invented that for the kitchen. Apparently, people in the kitchen used to wear these floppy hats, and they looked like nightcaps, basically. And he said, this is very undignified. And he's the one who comes up with the toque that, of course, gets taller and taller the
mhm.
higher you are in the kitchen. So we have that to his credit. But I think the reason he becomes so famous is he has the best patrons. He worked for some of the most powerful people in Europe at the time. And if you want to see the descendants of what Carême was doing, look at those competitions where they're making cakes that are
Mhm, mhm.
is really the descendant of Carême. Those enormous cakes with the things
Uh-huh.
flying all over the place. That's what he was doing, literally.
Jeff Goldman is the descendant of Carême. I haven't made that connection before. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome back. Today we're making pièce de mantis. So my hazelnut paste has dried. As you can see, this is the one we made together, but I'm a little nervous about it popping out. So as backup, I put a couple in silicone molds. I know they would not have had this back then, but I want to have something to build. But I'm gonna start by trying to unmold this guy. And if all else fails, we'll have a couple of small tiers. Now, there's not a whole lot of information about how you're getting this out of the mold. I'm gonna first see if I can loosen the edges with a knife. Ooh. Let's try the blowtorch. Wow, it didn't work. So, we tried, and it's definitely not happening for me. But this stuff does taste really good. Maybe we can roll it into truffles and eat it later. But thankfully, we've got those silicone molds, our backup, so we will have something. We will build something. I'm gonna swap to those. Now that we're all cleaned up, I'm really grateful I've got these set in silicone molds, which will for sure pop out. So now we're gonna try and decorate these guys. Here, I've got some circles of gum paste. In French cookery, Carême calls for something called pâté d'office, and we believe it's something like this. We're kind of guessing here. They weren't too specific, and it's really just here for structure. This guy's gonna be our bottom layer. Before we do that, I'm gonna fill this up with a little bit of chantilly cream, which is just whipped cream that's been sweetened. So delicious. Who doesn't like that? So when we break this open, we're gonna have this lovely whipped cream to go with our hazelnut paste. Now, this is practically miniature compared to what he would have made, but we're giving it our best shot, you know what I mean? It's like a beginner's pièce de mantis. Now, in order to seal the gum paste on here, I have a little bit of caramel. This is just sugar that's been melted until caramelized, and it's gonna be our glue for everything. This stuff is really, really hot, so you do gotta be really careful, and it also sets quite quickly. So you have to move fast. And I wanna make sure I don't get it on the whipped cream because it'll melt the cream, but I also wanna make sure I don't get it on the silicone mold because it'll stick, and I really, really wanna make sure I don't get it on my skin. This is probably around 375 degrees. I'm gonna add our gum paste, circle right there. And this caramel hardens so fast, so I'm just gonna invert and unmold. I like to meet my cake stand to my cake, make sure it's centered because it's often kind of difficult to adjust afterwards. And we're gonna pry this off. It's almost like just pulling off a pair of leather leggings. We have a layer. Okay, so I'm gonna repeat that with this second layer. Okay, let's see how long that holds. Looks pretty, right? Kinda looks like the picture, a little bit. Welcome back. Today we're making pièces de montis. Now we're gonna decorate. Fun part. I'm gonna start by taking these little pistachio biscuits we made and glue them around like maybe in a leaf pattern, hopefully. And I'm gonna use my caramel as my glue. Little dip. You gotta move really quickly and watch your fingies. It's magical. I just tap it on and it stays. Making this actually really reminds me of when my husband and I made our own wedding cake. We were really ambitious. It was 5 tiers. Each tier was almost a foot tall with 8 layers. It was s'mores flavored, decorated with cherry blossoms, and it was a disaster. I think we spent 3 days on it. We were working on it last second. People were running around trying to get me ready, and I was just like on the cake. And then Ham had to take it to the venue alone in the middle of a tropical storm. So all of the decorating just like got rained on. It didn't end up looking too great, but it was really tasty. So I guess the part that mattered counted. This is like a teeny tiny fraction of the amount of stress that was. Definitely don't do that. That was the dumbest decision of our lives. I can't believe we got through that. It's a little lopsided, but you know what? It's okay. Next, here I've got some Pistachio, little cream puffs. Carême wrote one of the first modern recipes for this, so we had to include it. We don't know exactly what he put in his croissant, so we're just like guessing based off of things that he made. There was something called white pastry called for, so we're just gonna say that this is the white pastry he meant. So I'm gonna fill some of these with whipped cream and attach it with caramel. I'm gonna do a quick smush and fill. So when you're filling something like this, you gotta really, as you're pressing, feel the weight of the cream puff. You can actually feel it getting heavier and heavier, and then stop right before it explodes. All right, I'm gonna get some of these cream puffs attached. I love cream puffs. I think they are one of the tastiest treats. I think if I had more time for this, it would be a lot better. This is not like a one-day activity. To do this justice, it would take 3 days and maybe like 4 people. For a really quick pièce de montis, it's not terrible, right? I know we're not done yet, but this is more of a tribute to Carême. A bunch of different things that he would have made all put together. So to finish this off and really fully celebrate Carême, we're gonna top this with a tiny croquembouche. And for that, I need to activate Tal Sola. So they say that Carême invented the croquembouche. So let's try and make one. Traditionally, when you make these, you use a mold to get it really, really precise and very tall and pointy. We're gonna go freehand. And actually, when I make these myself, I eyeball it. I don't mind if it's a little wonky, but if you want to make it really, really perfect, you can invest in one of those molds. It looks so pretty, like a giant dunce cap that tastes really good. I use the term croquembouche loosely. I believe you can glue anything together into a tower and make it a croquembouche, so like why not do it with like some donuts from the 7-Eleven, huh? Glue together some Girl Scout cookies. Something about gluing a bunch of pastries together really gets people excited, because then the best part is when you get to pull it apart and destroy this thing that looks so pretty. Okay, now I think the thing that's gonna bring it all together and salvage it and make it not look terrible is we're gonna top the whole thing in a little bit of spun sugar, which is very fun to make, very messy, and a little bit dangerous. So I'm gonna get set up for that final touch, and then we're gonna break into this bad boy. Welcome back. Today we're making pièces de montis. All right, so to finish decorating this, I'm gonna spin a little sugar. We have more of our caramel. To get a better angle of this, I'm gonna activate Tal Sola. Yay. Okay, so this is just a whisk that you've got at home, and we just cut off the tops to give us these nice little points, and it's gonna help make those threads really nice and fine. This is very fun and not as hard as it looks. Just, don't burn yourself. That's the only thing that matters with sugar. So we get up and drizzle, and you see how the thin threads, they just set up. It's a little messy, but it's a lot of fun. It's almost like cotton candy. It's like a little spider web that tastes delicious. This is so fun. I think the first time I ever saw this was Jacques Torres doing it for a croquembouche. And it blew my mind because it looks like magic. It's very easy, and it actually does taste good because it's just caramel that's super light and fine and instantly dissolves in your mouth. Like cotton candy, baby. Wow, it instantly looks less terrible. Carême mentioned that this would be decorated with something called sweetmeats, which could be any variety of jellies and jams at the time. So here we've got a little bit of red currant and apple jelly that we're gonna just drizzle and dollop along the sides of this. Just to take it, all the way over the top, because we're not there yet, right? We're gonna finish it with a little gold leaf, because why the hell not? Now, I can't wait to break this apart, chop it up, and have a taste. Here it is, all together. We've got our choux pastry, pistachio biscuits, the hazelnut paste, sweet meats, all topped with spun sugar and a little bit of gold for fun. Why the hell not? And now is the best part. I cannot wait to destroy this. I want to cut right down the middle. I want to get a cross section. I want to really get a really good look at it. Anytime I make something like this, my favorite part is the destruction. Hey, check it out. Huh? Wow, that's cool. Okay, I can't wait to get in here and taste it. I'm really surprised it didn't just collapse on itself when I cut it. That really made me feel like Paul Hollywood, when they do a big, giant, masterful thing that they've worked on for so long and he just goes in it with a knife. Yeah, okay. Let's just grab this guy. What a portion. So let's start by having a bite of our hazelnut paste with that chantilly. It tastes a lot like marzipan that's just toasty. It has the chewy texture of marzipan, but there's a lot of caramelization because we warmed it up. So the nuts are toasted, the sugar's toasted, and there's little bits of caramel everywhere. Let me try the choux with the caramel. I love choux filled with whipped cream. It's one of the best things ever. And then the caramel gives it really nice texture. Now the pistachio biscuit, I'm gonna dip it in a little bit of cream. So crunchy and nutty. I'm so surprised that this is actually tasty. I've read about these for so long that I just thought that they would be like just layers and layers of fondant and gum paste and taste like nothing. But this is actually pretty tasty. After finally making something that I've thought about for so long, it definitely is as hard as I expected. And I learned that Carême had some cool tricks up his sleeve, that spun sugar is very meditative, and that these masterpieces were also delicious. It's kind of amazing how Food can instantly make you feel connected to past cultures and time periods. It's kind of like a time machine, made out of dough and sugar and sauce, and there's nothing quite like it. I'll see you next time. You guys know the deal by now. If you liked the episode, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out other episodes down below. And if you have a vintage or ancient recipe you want us to try out, drop it in the comments. I always love to see them.